What's up, everyone, and welcome to episode number 16 of the Just an Insight podcast, and it is our second episode where we are working with our good friends at Already Heard. Firstly, let's get the pleasantries out of the way. I am Tim Birkbeck. I am a writer, I am a lover of films, music and wrestling, but most importantly of all, I am your body and vehicle through this podcast. I've had a pretty full-on week this week, what with the bank holiday just gone, so was catching up on a few bits and bobs. Did a film review for Vulture Hound recently of an awesome film called Population Zero. Basically, it's kind of a documentary. I'm going to leave it with a documentary based around the concept of these murders of these three young American lads in this national park in America, which for the life of me now I just can't remember where the hell it was. But yeah, there's kind of like this area called the Dead Zone. If you Google it, you'll find it. Basically, it's across like state borderlines, and there's kind of like this area where basically if you commit a murder, you can kind of get away with it, kind of thing. So the documentary all based around that, and the guy who is filming it gets really involved in the story, and basically becomes the film. But yeah, I don't want to give too much away because it's the first time I've seen a film like this in a long time, which I was really sort of taken back by, and yeah, it's really worth going to check out. So yeah, Population Zero, go have a look at that. And then after that, I had 3 gigs in 3 days, so I'm pretty worn out, and yes, but it was definitely worth it. So on Friday, I was in Bristol, went and saw the Devil Sold His Soul Fragile Hope anniversary show, which was awesome. The review will be up on alreadyheard.com in the near future. It was really cool to see. Obviously, I spoke to both Ed and Paul prior to the shows that they've been doing, and one of the things they said that they wanted to do was have fun on these shows, and you could tell that the guys, like not just them two, but the whole band in general, just were having the best time on stage. It was really cool to hear that record again, because it's something that, as I mentioned when I was talking to them, it's something that I kind of grew up with throughout sort of my college and uni years. So yeah, that was really cool. On Saturday, I was in London to see Integrity, which was really cool. I didn't realise until I spoke to a friend the next day that I thought I'd never seen Integrity before, but then I remembered they supported Converge, so I had seen them, but I didn't really remember it. But no, this was really cool, and it was really cool to go to a hardcore show not having to worry that someone was going to punch my face in. It was just kind of stage dives, sort of mic grabbing and things like that, and yeah, it was a really cool vibe, really cool show. Art of Bending Water supported, and they're probably one of my favourite UK bands at the moment. They're really, really cool. So yeah, check them out. If you haven't checked out Integrity, why not? Go check them out. And then Sunday, I was at an all-dayer here in Portsmouth, which had loads of rad bands, including my good friends in Never, Rough Hands and Group of Man, which was really cool to see those guys again. And yeah, it was just an awesome day. Like I can't remember off the top of my head how many bands, maybe like 11, crammed into a tiny little venue in Portsmouth, which we don't get that many great shows around here anymore. So it was really nice to see that, and nice to see the bands that played, that travelled. Algae Bloom were one of the highlights for myself. They were an awesome 2-piece from Norwich, so yeah, go check those guys out if you haven't seen them. Apologies if my voice is a bit wrecked, but I've literally just come in from band practice, and now I'm recording this here intro for this week's podcast, which is, as mentioned at the top of the show, is another one that is brought to you by Already Heard. Already Heard is an alternative music website which brings you features, interviews, reviews and exclusive content of all your favourite punk, hardcore, metal and pop punk bands. You can find all their work from their awesome writers, which include myself, over at alreadyheard.com, and they're on all the social media platforms, so facebook.com/alreadyheard, Twitter is at alreadyhearduk, and on Instagram, if you type in alreadyheard or one word, pop up, give them a follow. Got loads of cool rad live shots from their photographers, and yeah, just bits and bobs. And once again, it's thanks to those guys that I was able to speak to today's guest, who is guitarist and vocalist of the band Daisyhead, Michael Rowe. I came across Daisyhead probably tail end of 2015, beginning 2016, when somebody showed me their album The Smallest Light, which I absolutely love. I think that record's incredible. It's something that Michael talks about in the chat, that he didn't think the band kind of gave it the justice it deserved, but I think the record's rad, and the self-titled song off that record. It's one of my favourite songs at the moment. Like, literally, I play it on repeat. Like, I can't listen to it just once. I need to listen to it a couple of times. We get into this in the chat again, but Michael's one of those lyricists that he wears his heart on the sleeve, and it's something that I myself kind of relate to. And it was a really nice opportunity that when this arose through Already Heard, I jumped at the opportunity to speak to Michael. Got to talk to him about their new record, which is coming out, which is called In Case You Missed It. And something that Michael talks about is that the album almost nearly never saw the light of day. I'm giving too much away about this little chat, so I'm going to leave it as it is. Hope you enjoy the chat that I have with Michael, and I will see you on the other side. So this week I am joined by vocalist and guitarist of the band Daisyhead, Michael Rowe. Michael, thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Tim.
So obviously we'll get into talking about the new album that you guys have got coming out. But the way we like to start these shows is kind of tearing things right back to the bare bones and kind of getting a history of the band. So can you just give us a brief oversight of how Daisyhead came to be what it is today?
Yeah, sure thing. Started in 2012. I was approached by some buddies that wanted to just kind of start a side project, and they asked me to sing for it. And I just kind of came in and got really stoked on the music pretty quickly, and essentially kind of took a leading role. And we ended up recording some music, and we were just doing it for fun, just going to do some tours on weekends and stuff like that. We were all pretty committed to our other bands or other jobs that we had, and then once we started getting a little bit of notice from labels and stuff like that, we decided we'd take it more seriously. So then I really haven't stopped since that happened.
So were you doing sort of vocals and things in your old band then as well?
Depends on which band. I've done vocals in some bands. I've just played guitar in others, like in hardcore bands and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So I've kind of gone back and forth. It just depends on the project I'm working on at the time.
And obviously, most of the people who would have heard of Daisyhead came across, obviously, from your debut album. And obviously, the new album that's now coming out, In Case You Missed It, is quite an evolution from The Smallest Light, I think. So, talk me through the process of kind of how the new album was recorded, and from your point of view, how it differs from the first album.
Well, this latest album we're about to put out was definitely more stressful than the first.
Okay.
We had some member changes happen in between those album cycles. So, at the time where we were really seriously writing the record and preparing to record, we didn't even have a full band. It was just me and John Taylor and our old bassist, Zach. So a lot of it fell on my shoulders, a lot of the guitar parts and all of the singing and stuff like that. So, we kind of didn't even know if we were going to be able to go through with it. It just kind of seemed like everything was falling apart. But we went through, and then we went and recorded with a great producer, Jay Moss, up in Boston. And, he really brought the record to life and got us all really excited on the new music. So we definitely have just kind of been pushing forward as strong as possible ever since then.
And you mentioned it being a lot more stressful, but do you think that the end reward has kind of been worth that stress?
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly rewarding. And the record's not even out yet. Once it's out and we get to actually tour it and play the songs live and see how people react, that I'll get the full effect then. But at this point, I'm just a relief that we did it. And I actually just got the vinyl in to look at it, and it's crazy how it all came into fruition.
And you mentioned obviously the member changes, and something else that I read was that, I know you kind of touched upon it there a little bit, was that the band as a whole almost kind of came to a breaking point. So was that kind of just the way that there was kind of butting of heads, or as you mentioned, the stress of the situation? So what kind of made you kind of think, right, we need to pull this together, stay as a band, and make sure this album comes out?
Honestly, there were times even after we recorded that I had doubts, and that's just part of my personality is sometimes I'm not the most confident person, so it doesn't take much for me to, doubt myself and stuff like that. So, honestly, once we got the masters back of the record and once we kept hearing the music and stuff, we just, I think it was the way that the record came out is what kept us going. We just felt like it's really good, and it's at least worth a shot on this record to see, what's going to happen. But now that we have the new members, we all just want to keep doing it regardless. It doesn't feel as stressful as it did in that sense.
Yeah.
to where I know this is what I want to do instead of being on the fence.
And kind of sonically, obviously the new album, I think it might just be from the way I've listened to it, but it is a bit of a step away from The Smallest of Lights. So was that a conscious effort? Was that you wanted to produce something that was completely new to what the first record was?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense to where, since I had creative control, I essentially got to make it what I wanted to make it. So that was really cool, and I was really jazzed on that, and I definitely had that in mind. But at the same time, didn't really have a choice. Our original guitar player did a lot of the writing and stuff like that, so he brought a whole different vibe to it. Him and I kind of did a lot of mix and matching together, so not having him did kind of bum me out. But at the same time, I ended up just making it my own and then saying, okay, this is what I want it to sound like, and there weren't really differing opinions. So yeah, that's kind of a yes and no answer.
Yeah. And lyrically, obviously, I think with any kind of with the genre of music that you play, with any band that is producing kind of that type of music, the lyrics is something that a lot of fans kind of gravitate to. Right. So for yourself, because I think, again, this might be just my perception of how the lyrics are done, but they sound quite personal to yourself. So is there a worry that you're kind of putting yourself not on a pedestal, but putting your heart on the line, and that fans may not necessarily relate to some of the subjects you're singing about?
Yeah, I actually, I've always been self-conscious about my lyrics because there are so many great lyricists out there, and even just in my friend group and stuff like that. So there's a lot of pressure there because I know that there will be people that will dissect it or think differently of me because of the way I'm putting myself out there. But actually recently, within the past few weeks of doing interviews and talking more about the lyrics and this record, it's kind of, I think it's the best thing I can do for myself is to put myself out there regardless of what people think. Some people aren't going to like it, and that's fine. That's where we are in life, to where people are a little more desensitized. But if I let myself continuously worry about what people are going to think about how I'm portraying myself, then I'll just drive myself even more crazy than I already do.
No, that's fair enough.
I've taught myself to accept it, so to speak.
Well, because I think, again, kind of going into that kind of genre of music, for Already Heard, I spoke to the guys from Sorority Noise as well, and I think you and them kind of have similar grounds in the content that you talk about. So, again, going back to yourself personally, you kind of mentioned the self-doubt and things, but being a frontman of the band, you kind of obviously need to have almost a personality as well. So do you think that being in a band has kind of forced you to kind of tackle your demons in a way?
Yes. This is the only way I would know how to. I'm not very good at opening up, so doing it with my music, and I mean, that sounds a little cliche, yeah. Music is the answer to everything or whatever, but it really did gave me a platform to at least make myself known in a positive sense, but also sharing stuff that I know other people care about. I mean, there's so many other people that are battling the same exact demons. So, I mean, I've had people personally message me and say how they relate to it. And just having that, just a few people, even if most people don't feel the same way, that's fine. As long as I've been able to connect with at least a few people, they're really strong connections. So they mean the world.
And something that I've kind of noticed you guys have kind of done from the outset, like even with the first album, is I'm not sure if this is kind of label pushing you or if it's a conscious effort from your guys, but you do a lot of kind of music videos, and I think each video kind of sits well with what the theme of the song that you're singing about is. So is that something that you wanted to do when you kind of started taking the band seriously, as you said, like you wanted to kind of add that second layer of aesthetic to the band?
Well, I mean, I've always thought that would be great, but it wasn't. I can't take that much credit for it because all of the directors we've worked with and stuff. Whenever I can do some video work on my own end, but visually I'm aesthetically absent-minded, if that makes sense. I'm not good. Like, I'll talk to a director and be like, this is what the song's about. Can you help me portray this while keeping it universal at the same time? And each person that we've worked with has done a tremendous job of that. I think we've just gotten lucky in that sense. But of course I want that, but I didn't really get to bring that myself, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense at all. Cool. And sticking with the video kind of theme, obviously with this record you did the sharing around of the video for Common Ground. Was that just another thing that you wanted to kind of do to boost the record around, to kind of get people sharing it, to get people knowing that you guys are putting out this new record? Because obviously I think from my first understanding of the new record coming out was seeing someone share that video, ironically. Right.
I had some ideas earlier on about doing some share programs like that, getting people personally involved. Some of the people on the Daisyhead team that kind of are behind the scenes and stuff like that brought this exact idea to the table, just saying, let's post it and let's have people share it, and we'll give them a free download of it. I think it's a perfect trade. I think that was a great idea, but at the same time, I'm about to have to send out like hundreds of personal download codes. So, but I mean, I didn't expect it to get that many shares and that many views, and we got so much positive talk out of it. I think it was a perfect thing to do. I think it's just good to get personal instead of just trying to promotion is important for sure, but getting other people to get involved, that kind of makes them feel like they're a part of it as well, you know?
Goes back to the type of genre that Daisyhead kind of sits within. I think that rather than your kind of your hardcore bands and your average kind of punk bands, there seems to be a lot more inclusivity within kind of the kind of grunge, emo, whatever you want to call it. So do you feel like that, because, as I say, the lyrics and the music in general that you're putting out is so personal, that more people are attracted to you and want to kind of latch on to what you've got, but then, as you say, you want to make a personal connection with the fans? Is it a kind of a give and take in that aspect?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's still too early to tell, you know what I mean? Like, we still haven't put it all out there yet, and we haven't toured it yet and stuff like that, but there has been some gravitational pull. Just not so much yet. Like, probably like with bands like Sorority Noise, like you mentioned before. That's a great band in our genre that's doing a lot for people with mental health and stuff like that by putting it out there and kind of creating a persona that people can relate to and talk to. I've spoken with Cam once before I got introduced to him, and he was a really nice guy. So I think that's important.
And you mentioned obviously touring the album. Obviously, you've got the US tour that's coming up after the release. Unfortunately, I've never had the pleasure of kind of witnessing US shows. So, for you guys, what's the kind of key enjoyment that you get out of touring? And are there any specific cities that you really look forward to going to?
Oh, wow. Touring is just, I mean, that's the reason I'm doing this is because I want to tour, because I want to see as much of the world as I can and play music while doing it. It's kind of, it's the dream, whether we're making money with it or not. I mean, maybe we will eventually. And if not, I'm just really, really enjoying getting to see part of the country that I wouldn't have pushed myself to see if I didn't have it scheduled out this way, you know? So I love just the travel and the feeling I have from being away from home and doing that and kind of putting myself out of my comfort zone is just kind of, it's freeing for my mind. But on this tour, we're hitting some of my favorite cities like Denver in Colorado and Portland, Oregon are great. And New York's always fun. We've kind of have a new group of friends in New York and Brooklyn and Staten Island and stuff like that. So I'm excited to get back there as well.
Mm. And kind of want to take things back a little bit. So obviously when the Smallest Light came out, for me personally, the kind of title track that is The Smallest Light is kind of the one that I was introduced to first, and I think that's the one that I probably play the most. But when that album was kind of first put out, what was the initial reception from fans? Because I think going back to the genre that you're kind of in, it was a different sort of take on that genre. So did fans kind of see that?
I think so. It wasn't. Unfortunately, we at the time we released that album, we didn't really know what we were doing. We didn't know how to promote ourselves well, and we didn't know. We didn't have proper management. I would say, like, right when it came out, because we just. I always say that we didn't give it the cycle it deserved. So it was well received, but it didn't go out as far as I wanted it to, and that was kind of our bad. We didn't extensively tour it like we're planning to do this new record, In Case You Missed It. So yeah, it was good, but I expected more. I think I just kind of shot too high in my brain, just thinking like, oh, we're gonna blow up off of this, because I was really proud of it, and I still am. But back then I was like, man, everybody's going. We didn't realize the work we had to put in. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously between that album and this, there's nearly a 2-year gap. So obviously I know we've mentioned kind of member changes and things like that, but for you personally, because again, this might be something that I've just touched upon listening to the two albums almost simultaneously, is that I think you as a lyricist and a vocalist have kind of developed and changed your vocal range. So has there been anything in that 2 years that you've kind of worked on personally to strengthen yourself for this record?
Yeah, I think I started taking vocal lessons a little bit, and also like I said, we didn't tour a lot off of The Smallest Light, but the amount of touring that we did kind of helped condition me. Like singing night after night and learning how to keep up my vocals on the road made it a lot easier for me to manage that in the studio. But also the studio experience that we had with the second record, in comparison to the first one, is the first one we recorded while we were at home. So I would go over to the studio after work, every now and then, and it was pretty sporadic. But for In Case You Missed It, we were in the studio the entire time. That's the only thing we focused on the entire 2 weeks we were in Boston. So I think I was able to be more in the right headspace to project the right way and to be more confident in the parts. And we did pre-production before, and there was just a lot put into it, a lot more thought. And I wanted it to be a pretty vocal driven record as well. And I think it kind of came out that way. So that was a big focus.
So do you think that, not to kind of dismiss The Smallest Light, because as I said, I really enjoyed that record, but do you think as a band you kind of put a bit more effort and a bit more conscious sort of thought into In Case You Missed It? Yes,
for sure. Mainly we did it because it was after we'd learned from our mistakes, that whichever ones we did with The Smallest Light. So we were able to just be more conscious about how to go about it. And it's not like we took it more seriously. I don't know if I ever take anything more seriously than the last, because I'm I'm all in all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the process was so different and with such different people. It's so hard to pinpoint the vibe on each time.
You know what fair enough. And something that I've kind of read about that people, I don't know why they seem to pick up on it, but the fact that you guys are from Nashville, people always kind of seem to ask you like, what's it like coming out of Nashville? But I don't know. Do you find it weird that people ask you that question?
I do. What's your perception of Nashville?
Well, I get that obviously the stereotypical view is that it's the heart of like country music and things like that. But I'm a music lover in general, so I know there are other music genres that come out from
right.
like Tennessee and things. So yeah, I just thought like from you guys, do you get baffled by getting asked that?
Yeah, I do. And that's why I kind of turned it around to ask you, is because the weirdest thing about Nashville is everybody else's perception of it if they're not from here. And I'm not from here, but I've lived here since before the major gentrification started and before it became popular. I've lived here for about 10 or 11 years now. I grew up a few hours west in Memphis, so I'm always been in Tennessee. But yeah, it's crazy. I did an interview a few years ago, and then I recently did an interview with the same guy and brought it up in that. But he said over the phone, he was from New York, and he called and he said, I heard that Nashville is the new LA. And I was like, what are you? I had no idea what he was talking about. And then I started looking around after that and noticed it's crazy to me how much it blew up. And I love Nashville, and it's great. And there's a really, really great underground rock scene that's kind of killing it right now. And that's been my favorite thing about it recently. But you know, I get that question a lot. When people find out I'm in a band and they're from around and they're, you know, kind of older, don't understand the music scene, they just immediately ask, "Oh, cool, so country, right?"
Yeah.
You know. So it's kind of an eye roller, but I mean, I understand why people are gravitating here and want to know more about it, because it is a great city. I can't deny it.
But does that annoy you that they kind of jump to that conclusion that you're going to be a country band?
Yeah, well, it annoys me personally because for some reason I've always had this personal vendetta with country singing.
Okay.
And I don't discredit country music as a genre, because there are some of the best musicians in the entire world are country musicians, singers alike. But ever since I was young, I did not like the twangy singing kind of thing. So I know definitely older country is still badass regardless of what I think, but it annoys me just because I just naturally don't like it. I don't know why. I can't explain it.
And I know that obviously America in general is kind of quite a vast country, and I know you're doing quite an extensive tour to promote this album, but have you got any future plans like later on in the year to kind of hit other areas of the country, or even kind of going further afield, maybe coming here in the UK? Yeah,
actually I can't give away any details, but we are working on it. We are definitely. I can almost guarantee that we're going to get out of the U.S. this year.
Awesome.
I'm pumped about it. I hope everything falls into place. We just have a lot up in the air right now, so we can't rule anything out, and we never know what's going to come up. But we do have plans for that, and we definitely want to get into Canada this year too. We've only played one Canada show, and there's a few markets that we want to hit up there, but we definitely want to cross the pond this year.
Cool. And kind of going back into the album a little bit, because I know it's this bit of a weird and quirky question, but I always like to ask like bands what their favourite tracks are. So, within the new record, is there one that you feel that you've really kind of put your personality into it, and that one has the most meaning to you personally?
It depends on the day. It's funny. I've been asked that question a few times, and every time I feel like I want to give a different answer. I don't know. I'm really, really digging Common Ground lately. Not just because we're pushing it, but just because that was supposed to be an instrumental track, and I just ended up writing vocals for it literally on the way to the studio, and it ended up being, most people that hear the record say it's their favorite track, and I think we did a really cool music video for it and stuff. And I mean, I recorded the vocals for it like drunkenly at 1:30 in the morning after we went to a show. You know, we're just like, oh, we should try and track vocals right now, just kind of joking. And then I was like, dude, I'll try it. This is probably going to be the song I need to sound the best. So it's probably a bad idea, but let's do it. And then we ended up tracking it, and the takes sounded great. So, I mean, I think that song has the best story, and I think it sounds really good too. So I guess that one today. You can ask me again tomorrow. I'll let you know.
Why was it meant to be an instrumental track then initially?
I think honestly, as much as I hate to admit it, I think I was so stressed out and ready to just record and stuff, and we were getting so close to the wire that well, first of all, I was lazy, and second of all, I was doubting myself. I just didn't think I'd be able to write anything good enough in that short of time.
Okay.
I was kind of like, oh yeah, this sounds cool. Let's just keep it instrumental. And then I was just like, I should probably just do it. And then everybody else pushed me to do it. They said, you need to write vocals for this song. So I did, and I'm glad I did.
So was it going to be like almost like a bit of an interlude track initially? I
guess so. You know, I didn't really know at the time. It's just like, we'll figure it out.
And kind of sticking on the song theme, the way I like to end these interviews is ask the band when they're playing live, is there any track that they within their set that they particularly connect to, or that their fans necessarily go the craziest for? So if I take it twofold, what's your personal favourite to play, and what's the one that you get the best fan reaction from?
Okay, we wrote a song called Never Know for this record, and we recorded a demo for it with different band members, and then we re-recorded it in the studio, and now we play it differently than the way we recorded it in the studio. So there's just a bunch of different versions of it, but our live version of it is so much fun. We just made it to where we could just jam out harder and have a lot of fun with it, and most people react to that one the best.
Okay.
So it's my favorite one to play live for sure. At least because of what we do at the end now. It's just kind of gets us all pumped. So I think that one gets us the best and gets the best reaction.
Perfect. Brilliant. Well, Michael, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me. Best of luck with the new record and the tour. And I'll have my fingers crossed that I catch you guys in the UK at some point later down the year.
Awesome, Tim. Thank you.
Brilliant. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thanks, man. See ya.
Cheers. Bye. So there we have it, folks. Thanks again to Michael from Daisyhead for taking the time to chat with me, and thanks again to Already Heard for setting the interview up in the first place. If you haven't heard any of Daisyhead's stuff before, I highly recommend checking them out. Go over to YouTube, check out their music videos. It's probably the best kind of gateway into them, because you get kind of snippet of what they're all about, and the videos kind of really illustrate what the songs are about as well, in my opinion. So yeah, go have a little look on there. Alternatively, you can find them on all the usual social media platforms, over Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's all the same things, all Daisyhead TN. So yeah, have a search of that, check out the band, see what they're doing. They're currently on touring the new record, in case you missed it, over in the States. And as always, you can get in touch with us over on Twitter, which is at just_and_insight, using the hashtag JAIPod. Next week will be one of our wrestling roundtables. So if you're going to be watching WWE Payback, tweet us your predictions. Let us know what you think's going to happen in the pay-per-view. Something that we started prior to WrestleMania, and I think we're going to kind of roll it out throughout these WWE pay-per-views, is we ran a little poll of each match who people think is going to win. So yeah, check us out on Twitter, have a look on those, let us know your predictions, join in the conversation, let us know what you think of the pay-per-view. As always, we'll be live tweeting it as well. So yeah, that will be next week's episode, but for now, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for stopping by, and I will see you soon.